All right, what's up? It's your boy Dan. We're going to talk about the new patches that came out today, specifically one thing, which is Dual Destiny. I wanted to wait to see if Bungie was going to make the change. Last week, the last couple weeks, they didn't nerf it or, patch out the duplication, whatever you want to call it, the exotic cheese, whatever you want to call it, where you were able to go in and get 2 exotic class items for the price of 1 run. I had a lot of discussion with my stream over the past couple weeks. We talked about whether or not they were going to nerf it or not, whether or not they were going to patch it, and also what was some possible, compromises for as much time as it takes to get a run in. I know if you're really efficient, you can knock it out in 20-ish minutes, but we're going to look at it from a casual, overall community point of view. I will also give you my few thoughts on how I feel about the activities, nerf and change for the most part. And for the time it takes, if you have a solid, secondary player, solid partner, the exotic mission, if you can speed through it, if you and your partner know the comms and all that stuff, is actually not bad. For 20 minutes, 25-ish minutes, you can get an exotic class item. This exotic class item is meant to be an in-game farm, which means for the next, let's say, final shape is a year. Let's say for the next year, you should be looking to farm this activity, constantly. I don't think we're gonna get any updated class item, inclusions, maybe adding some more exotic class items. I hope actually they don't, because how many different choices you have already, it would be even worse to go back in and farm the new ones unless they are on a knockout system. Speaking of knockout system, I do think a lot of the complaints around this activity aren't the RNG, but the fact that there isn't a targetable system or a lockout system, or not really a lockout, a knockout system, in the sense that if there was a way, every time you run it, you would get a new version of the exact class items until you get all of them, and then it cycles back in. The problem with that, the argument against that, is once you've done, let's say 100 runs, you have every single one. 100 runs does sound like a lot, and it does let players know that they have a end goal, in time. And I don't think that's a problem. If you have to run the activity 100 times to get every different version of it, or, say 50 times or however many times it takes to get every single one, then cool. If you have to run this pretty much an infinite amount of times just to get the one combination still missing, that could be a problem for a lot of players. Me personally, I don't personally mind it. I know that's a Bungie shield thing, but in a world where, especially for the last couple years, we've not had a lot of long-term targetable farms, it's nice to have something to farm for long-term. Now, I do think that there should be some way to target farm at the very least one of the perks. Keep it a little bit random, but having a way to at least say every run I want to always get Liar's Handshakes perk or Caliban's or Essential or whatever every single time, then I should be able to do that. At least make the grind a little bit more tolerable. I myself have done dozens, if not hundreds of runs for myself and also for the community to at least get some runs in. And I can't tell you how many times I got the same roll for an hour straight, back to back to back. And it is very frustrating. So there is a bit of a balancing act in the sense of a lot of players want to grind. A lot of players want a, tedious, I don't want to say tedious, but a lengthy grind. But they don't want to spend an 8-hour session and get the same drops over and over and over. So it's tough. It is very tough because you have your content creator streamers that are going to grind it no matter what. You have your dad gamers, your mom gamers. You have all these, students. You have pretty much anyone in the world playing that has different obligations that, might not want to invest hundreds of hours in this activity and this activity alone to reap the benefits of prismatic, to reap the benefits of builds. I've also put off personally myself. I've personally put off making a few builds that I want to put out because I simply don't have the exotic class item combos yet. There's a couple hunter ones and a couple warlock ones I want to make, but I can't really make it until I have the exotic class item to, put it out there and make sure what I think is going to work works. So it's tough. I don't know what the change means to the active engagement with this activity. I know the engagement was fairly high because you could cheese it, you could get 2. What I would have personally preferred to see, in my opinion, if they want to force people to have to do this quote unquote legit, would have been to make it to where there's a compromise in the sense of you do the activity, you can open up both chests if you're on the same class, since they are pushing this whole class, specific thing or whatever. Just make it to where when you go in with another player, you can, if you're on the same class, open up the warlock chest and the hunter chest. Doesn't matter who opens up, and it's all client side. Personally, that person opens it up and you get. It sucks because community sentiment has been pretty high, and for the most part, everyone agrees that this is a L, as a lot of people have responded under their tweets about the patches. I don't know if this is a good look as far as the activity goes, as far as are people going to constantly be playing this activity? A lot of people have said that even though the timer is 40 minutes, it takes them 40 minutes. I would imagine by now a lot of players are doing it pretty often and getting pretty good at it. But obviously last week we saw the whole controversy around clock and 1 through 9, whatever, who cares? But with this being such a very, very, very sought after exotic class item, because this is such a highly sought out system, in the sense of the exotic class items are very highly sought after because of the different perk combinations you can get, it's in Bungie's best interest to keep that activity alive for as long as possible. I don't know if this is the best way of going about it, but of course they're the ones that make the game. They wanted it to be a grind. I would prefer, maybe a currency. I know we hate currencies, but I wish there was a currency that you could spend instead, maybe to make, be able to get more per run. Getting more for your runs are always going to be nice. We always talk about, as a community, that Menagerie was one of the best, seasonal exotic activity or whatever ever. And it was because each run you got splurged in loot. So for your time, it was always worth doing it, because even if one, item dropped and it was, trash, all the drops that happen means you have a higher chance of getting something you want. I hope, I'm gonna be running it myself to see how it feels, just to help my community still, but I definitely know without the cheese, for the time it takes, I can see the people not running it as much. They're still gonna run it because they still want to get all the class items, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they make another change. I would have preferred some system that you have to use though, just to lock in a perk. I don't know if they could even go back and implement that. I don't know if it's even possible. Maybe something at the beginning of the mission before it actually starts. You select a little box, in that opening area and say, I want this. I don't know. Maybe they tie it to certain symbols or something. I don't know. But there needs to be a way to have this be targetable. With all the combinations, I can't remember the exact number. It is rough because even with the ability of doing the dupe, the class item cheese, you still could go multiple runs without getting one of the things that you wanted. And it's a shame. I hope I didn't get all the ones I wanted, but I hope if you were one of the people that's been farming, I took a little bit of break playing Elden Ring, but now that that's over, back to some Destiny stuff this week. I don't understand how looking forward this is going to turn up and go. And it's interesting. That's all I got for you. I just want to give a few thoughts and a few minor opinions on this. If you were one of the people farming in this activity, let me know your comments and thoughts in the comments. And as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.